When Mandino and Chengda left to go swimming, I walked along to look at the books on ancient China. They got me thinking. I really love kung fu movies and I'd watch all the TV serials about the old days in China. I often wondered whether or not they were true. I found a book about Chinese warfare that looked interesting. I was leaning against the shelf flipping through the pictures and of ancient battle, and my classmate Ansel Ang appeared beside me. And he wasn't alone. The prettiest girl in our school, Fu Wei Han, stood beside him. I quickly tried to hide the book in case she thought I was some kind of history geek, but I was too late. Wei Han reached out and glanced at the cover of the book. Wow, I didn't know you liked Chinese history, Seth. She gasped in awe. Wow, I didn't know you did either, I thought. Wei Han flashed me a smile. Do you like the story of Mu Ying? She asked me. I didn't know what she was talking about. Mu who? But Ansel saved me from looking down. Who's she? He scratched his head. Mu Ying was the most heroic Chinese woman who ever lived, Wei Han replied proudly. Did you know she took command of the Chinese army when she was only 19? It must have been pretty weird army, joked Ansel. Wei Han silenced him with one of her fierce stares. She was a valiant general who actually saved the Song dynasty. And so stout. I thought generals were always men. They were, but they were defeated, said Wei Han, looking down her nose. The Song army was led by a family of generals taught young. There were 8 of them, all brothers. They were fighting the army from the north led by the great Liao. But the young army was the battle of all, but 3 of the young generals were killed. One of them, Yang Zhao, was then made commander-in-chief to replace his brother. The Liao captured another and the third quit fighting and became a monk. Are you sure? Asked Ansel skeptically. She speaks the truth, said a man's voice, and we spun around. Slowly through a red mist, a figure began to take shape beside us. The first thing we saw was his face. A long, sad, studious face beneath the peak of his high shaven head. He seemed to float in the mist like a ghostly star. Streams burst from our mouths, and the book I'd been holding slid through my frozen fingers and crashed into the floor. The librarian behind the counter leaped to her feet. Quiet, she cried. Seconds later she saw the floating face in the whirling mist and fainted. Crash! We stared in disbelief as the rest of the man slowly became visible. He stepped through the mist and stood before us, clad in the robes of an ancient Chinese monk. Wei Han seized my arm, and so made a funny croaking noise and fell back against the shelf. I am he, the man introduced himself. I am the young monk. I gave my sword to preach peace. I want to settle the conflict between the Liao and China. That is why I have come to find you and deliver a message. I am sure my heart had stopped beating for a while, but now it was hammering louder than 10 Chinese gongs. It felt like it was doing a Chinese lion dance in my chest. I glanced around the library. Only the librarian had seen him, and she was unconscious behind her desk. Everyone else sat at the tables reading or pottering around the shelf looking for books. And that's when I realized that we were the only ones who could see him. And that meant he was a ghost, and that meant he could choose who could see him and who couldn't. It also meant that if he did anything to hurt us, nobody else in the library would ever know what had happened.